Hello, and welcome. I'm Gary, and you're listening to Mastery, Audiobooks, where lasting transformation starts not with more noise, but with purposeful clarity. If you're here, it's not by accident. Maybe you've felt it for weeks, months, or even years. That gentle longing for meaning in a world that feels too loud. That quiet fatigue that deep rest never quite lifts. That sense that your authentic self, calm, thoughtful, introverted, was meant for something more. You're not hidden. You're not less. You're an introvert, and that's your power, not your problem. And today, that quiet power is your turning point. Pause, let it land. The book you're about to experience, Introvert to Income, Unlock the Millionaire Mindset Within by Simo Ben, won't ask you to get louder, hustle harder, or pretend to be someone you're not. It's your invitation to discover how your calm is your greatest asset, your silence is your strength, and your steady presence is the foundation for true wealth. Inside, you'll learn how to recognize the subtle patterns that build prosperity, defend your energy in a world fueled by distraction, build introvert-friendly income streams on your own terms, connect and sell authentically with zero performance, and create a life where wealth and peace thrive together. This book is for every thoughtful dreamer, every quiet achiever, every introvert who ever wondered if they could succeed on their own terms. If you're nodding right now, this is your invitation to reimagine success without apology, to honor your quiet strengths and begin building the life you were always meant to live. Call to presence. True transformation doesn't start with more hustle. It starts by honoring who you truly are, by saying, "Depth, not noise, is my path." And the journey begins now, just by allowing yourself to listen. Closing, hopeful, strong, intimate. Take a breath. Notice that stillness? That's your unique advantage, ready to be awakened. Welcome to Introvert to Income. Welcome to Mastery, Audiobooks. Welcome to your new journey. I'm Gary, and I'm honored to walk this path with you. Let's begin. Introvert to Income. Unlock the Millionaire Mindset Within. Simo Ben. Acknowledgement. To every quiet soul who ever doubted their power, this book is for you. Thank you to the countless introverts who walk through a noisy world with calm courage, who build in silence, who love deeply, think deeply, and lead gently. You are the hidden architects of progress, the steady heartbeat beneath society's chaos. To my readers, thank you for your trust, for turning these pages with curiosity and courage, for allowing me to speak to your silence and walk beside you in reflection. You are the proof that peace and prosperity can coexist. To every mentor, friend, and quiet guide who helped shape these pages, your influence lies between every line. Your presence has been my mirror of truth. And to my family, whose love gave me the confidence to embrace who I am, your faith has always been the foundation of every word I write. This book is not mine alone. It is a collection of every calm conversation, every moment of stillness, every story shared by those who refuse to trade authenticity for approval. Thank you for being part of this quiet revolution. Dedication. For the ones who never fit the noise. For the thinkers in corners, the dreamers behind screens, the creators who build before dawn and rest when the world awakens. For those who were told they were too quiet, too reserved, too gentle, but who, in silence, became extraordinary. This book is a mirror for you. May you see in it your brilliance, your worth, and your wealth, not despite your quietness, but because of it. About the book, Introvert to Income, Unlock the Millionaire Mindset Within is a journey into the art of quiet wealth, a guide for those who wish to create abundance without noise, influence without ego, and peace without compromise. In a culture that glorifies extroversion and constant motion, this book redefines success through the lens of stillness, solitude, and depth. Each chapter unpacks the introvert's natural advantages, clarity, focus, emotional intelligence, creativity, and discernment, and shows how to transform them into income, independence, and inner freedom. Through psychology, storytelling, and strategy, it empowers the reader to build wealth authentically, not by pretending to be loud, but by mastering the quiet disciplines that compound over time. It is both philosophy and playbook, both meditation and manual. By the final page, readers will understand that silence was never their weakness, it was their superpower. Because when the world grows louder, those who know how to be still don't get left behind. They rise above. Introduction. From silence to strength. There's a certain kind of person the world rarely notices at first glance. They're the ones who sit quietly in meetings, observing before they speak. They walk into rooms filled with noise and chaos, and though their lips may stay still, their minds are alive, analyzing, connecting, building entire worlds of thought beneath the surface. If you are that person, this book is for you. Because somewhere along the way, society made you believe that to succeed, you had to be louder, to network harder, talk faster, or make yourself visible by force. Yet, the truth is far more powerful and liberating. You were never meant to compete in that noisy arena. You were designed to master the silent one. I know what it feels like to be underestimated because your voice isn't the loudest, to have ideas burning inside you, but feel your energy drained by rooms filled with endless talking. You've probably been told you need to come out of your shell, market yourself more, or be more confident, as if your quietness were a flaw instead of a feature. The irony is that the world's greatest thinkers, inventors, investors, and creators, from Warren Buffett to Bill Gates, from Eleanor Roosevelt to Albert Einstein, all thrived not because they forced themselves to become extroverted, but because they leveraged the calm, deliberate, and introspective power of their inner world. They didn't chase attention, they created value. And value, unlike volume, never fades. This book exists to remind you of something you might have forgotten, that your quiet nature is not a limitation, it's a blueprint. You already possess the qualities that produce sustainable wealth: focus, patience, depth, and the ability to think independently. The challenge is not to become someone else, but to unlearn the noise that taught you you're not enough. The world celebrates the loud because noise is easy to measure, but wealth, real wealth, is born from clarity, not chaos. And clarity is the domain of the calm mind. Imagine your inner world as an ocean. On the surface, waves crash, winds scream, and storms threaten to overturn everything. But deep below, in the still waters, there is peace, steady, immense, powerful. That's the introvert's advantage. The quiet mind doesn't need the world's approval to move mountains. It only needs alignment between thought and purpose. From that place of depth, wealth becomes a natural extension of who you are, not something you have to chase. You don't need to shout to attract abundance. You only need to master your frequency. I remember once meeting a man who built a multi-million-dollar digital business from a single laptop. He worked from a tiny apartment, hardly left home, and rarely posted selfies or motivational videos. When I asked him what his secret was, he smiled and said, "Silence is my strategy." He explained that while others were constantly reacting to the world, chasing trends, comparing, competing, he spent his days in structured quiet, designing systems that made money while he rested. "I don't network much," he said. "I connect deeply with few." His words stayed with me, not because of their poetry, but because they revealed something we often overlook. Introverts don't lack energy. They simply invest it wisely. If you've ever doubted your potential because you don't fit society's definition of charisma, take heart. This book is going to reframe everything you believe about success. You're going to see how your introspection, empathy, focus, and ability to listen can become your unfair advantages in business, investing, and personal growth. You'll discover that the richest people in the world, financially, emotionally, and spiritually, are those who've learned to turn solitude into strategy. They've realized that quietness doesn't mean absence of power. It's often the refinement of it. The transformation you're about to experience isn't about becoming louder. It's about becoming clearer. It's about shifting from survival mode to creation mode, from self-doubt to self-trust, from internal conflict to internal alignment. Every chapter will take you deeper into that process, understanding your hidden strengths, dismantling society's myths, mastering energy and focus, building income streams that align with your nature, and finally, designing a life of wealth and peace on your terms. By the time you finish this book, you will not just believe that quiet people can become millionaires. You'll know it through the lens of your own transformation. But before we go any further, I want you to take a breath. Close your eyes, even for a few seconds, and listen, not to me, but to the stillness within you. That space, that pause, that silence, it's not emptiness. It's potential. It's the something is shifting. You can feel it beneath the constant hum of modern life. The vibration of something quieter, slower, and far more deliberate. For centuries, the world has belonged to the loud. But that age is ending. The quiet revolution has already begun, and it isn't being led by those with the most followers or the biggest platforms. It's being built by those with the deepest focus, the strongest inner worlds, and the calmest minds. Introverts are quietly taking command of the future, not through noise, but through strategy, stillness, and thought. In the past, attention was the currency of influence. Whoever could shout the loudest, dominate the room, or flood the airwaves won the day. But the digital age changed that. The internet leveled the playing field. Now, value, not volume, determines success. Quiet creators are building digital empires from their living rooms. Coders, writers, designers, investors, and thinkers, people who once felt overlooked, are now quietly creating massive waves that reshape industries. While others seek to go viral, these builders go deep. They craft meaningful products, lasting ideas, and sustainable systems. They don't chase visibility, they attract loyalty. The world is finally beginning to recognize that calm focus is the ultimate competitive advantage. The ones who win now are those who can sit alone, block out the noise, and produce something of lasting value. The future doesn't belong to the loudest, it belongs to the most disciplined. Deep work, creative solitude, and mindful leadership have become the gold standards of performance. The quiet revolution is built on patience in a culture obsessed with speed, on clarity in a world addicted to confusion, and on consistency in an age of distraction. Look around. Elon Musk, Tim Cook, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, none of them are known for being loud. They lead through intellect and calm decisiveness. Even in the world of art, authors like J.K. Rowling and Haruki Murakami, or composers like Hans Zimmer, built legacies not through spectacle, but through silent devotion to their craft. Their influence is permanent because it wasn't borrowed from noise, it was built from mastery. The quiet revolution isn't about rejecting extroverts, it's about restoring balance. The world needs voices that speak after thinking, not before. It needs visionaries who build before broadcasting. It needs men and women who can sit with themselves long enough to understand what truly matters. The quiet revolution is the reclamation of human depth in a shallow age. If you are reading this and have ever felt unseen, unheard, or underestimated, understand this. Your time has come. The traits society once called weaknesses, your introspection, your preference for solitude, your aversion to chaos, are now your weapons. They allow you to think clearly when others are confused, to act calmly when others panic, and to stay consistent when others burn out. You are not behind. You are simply preparing in silence for the age that now rewards your nature. This revolution is not loud because it doesn't need to be. It doesn't seek validation, it seeks results. It's built on the understanding that real power moves quietly. Mountains don't announce their growth. Rivers don't brag about their strength. They simply move, reshape, and endure. That's the energy of the introverted millionaire mindset. So, let the noise keep shouting. Let the world chase trends, applause, and speed. You will be the calm center, the one who builds systems, wealth, and impact while the crowd is distracted. You will move with purpose, earn with intention, and live with peace. The quiet revolution is not coming. It's already here, and you are part of it. Chapter 3. Designing Your Silent Wealth Identity. The Invisible Blueprint. Every fortune, every empire, every breakthrough begins not with action, but with identity. What you earn, how you think, and the limits you unconsciously obey are all reflections of the story you tell yourself about who you are. Most people chase new habits, new tactics, new side hustles, but they do it while carrying the same self-image that kept them small. It's like pouring water into a cracked cup. Until you reshape the vessel, your inner identity, nothing you build will ever hold. For the introvert, this truth cuts even deeper. The world has conditioned you to see your quiet nature as a limitation. So your subconscious carries silent instructions. Stay small. Blend in. Avoid risk. Don't disturb the noise. Those invisible sentences run your decisions like background code. You might study success, but when opportunity calls, that inner script whispers, "That's not for someone like me." And you retreat, not out of weakness, but out of misidentity. You're acting according to an outdated self-portrait drawn by someone else's expectations. But identity is not fixed. It's clay, not concrete. The moment you understand that, the ground beneath your limitations begins to crack. You start to see that wealth is not a goal to chase. It's a character to embody. Money follows mindset, and mindset follows identity. When you become the kind of person who moves with confidence, thinks long-term, and trusts silence, prosperity becomes the natural echo of your inner world. You no longer chase success. You attract it because it recognizes its own reflection in you. Think of your identity as a room you've lived in for years. The walls are painted with beliefs inherited from parents, teachers, friends, culture. Some of those colors served you once, but now they dim the light. Redesigning your wealth identity begins by turning on the lamp of awareness. Ask yourself, not superficially, but honestly, whose voice defines my worth? Who told me that being quiet means being less? When did I first decide that money was for others, not for me? The answers might sting, but they're the beginning of liberation. As you peel back those layers, you realize that the introvert's quiet isn't empty. It's sacred space for construction. While others shout their affirmations into the world, you can sculpt them internally until they feel true. That's your edge. You don't need the crowd to validate your transformation. You can evolve unseen, building your new identity brick by brick in the privacy of thought. Every time you act slightly above your old comfort level, speaking up in a meeting, launching a small digital product, investing with intention, you reinforce the blueprint of the new you. Identity grows through evidence, not wishful thinking. Here's a reflection exercise to fold into your silence tonight. Close your eyes and picture two versions of yourself. The first is the current you, shaped by fear, hesitation, and the belief that staying unseen is safe. The second is your future self, the quiet millionaire whose calm presence commands respect without effort. Observe how he sits, how he decides, how he moves through uncertainty. Don't chase him. Simply study him until you can feel his steadiness as your own. That emotional alignment is the first step in identity shift. You don't fake it till you make it. You familiarize yourself with who you are becoming until it feels natural. Once this seed is planted, your outer life will start rearranging itself. You'll notice subtle impulses, to read instead of scroll, to plan instead of panic, to conserve energy instead of pleasing everyone. These are not coincidences. They're the new identity steering the ship. Wealth creation becomes effortless when your internal compass points toward expansion instead of survival. The quiet mind that once hid now becomes the architect of abundance. Breaking the scripts, rewriting the money story. Every one of us carries a story about money, often unspoken, always powerful. It's not written in words but encoded in emotions, memories, and habits. Maybe you grew up hearing phrases like money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are greedy, or you have to work yourself to death to make it. These lines burrow deep into the subconscious, shaping how you earn, spend, and even dream. They become the invisible ceiling over your potential. For the introvert, those stories are often tied to silence, to the idea that being modest means being invisible, that ambition must always whisper, never roar. But here's the truth. Your quiet nature doesn't demand that you play small. It invites you to build deeply, intentionally, and sustainably. When you trace your money story back, you'll often find it wasn't yours to begin with. It was inherited, passed down like an old family heirloom, kept out of habit rather than usefulness. Maybe your parents struggled, and their anxiety around money became yours. Maybe your teachers praised humility so much that you learned to equate self-worth with self-erasure. These beliefs linger not because they're true, but because they went unchallenged. Once you bring them into the light, you can decide, does this belief serve the person I'm becoming, or does it protect the version I've already outgrown? To rewrite your money story, you must replace fear with neutrality. Stop seeing money as moral. It's not good or bad, it's a mirror. It magnifies what already exists inside you. If you're kind, money expands your kindness. If you're grounded, it multiplies your stability. Wealth, in its purest form, is simply energy directed with clarity. And clarity is something introverts possess in abundance when they allow themselves to trust it. When you treat money as a tool for expression rather than validation, It flows toward you instead of away from you. Here, your workspace, in particular, should feel like an ally, not an adversary. Surround yourself with cues that calm your nervous system: natural light, neutral tones, plants, perhaps a single object that symbolizes focus. Keep your digital environment equally minimal: fewer tabs, fewer notifications, fewer decisions. Each digital ping is an energetic withdrawal, a reminder of someone else's urgency disguised as importance. Turn off what doesn't serve your rhythm. Remember, your phone is a tool, not a tether. The introvert's genius lies in depth, and depth requires uninterrupted attention. Energy leaks through distraction, and every leak delays your wealth. Protect your attention as fiercely as your assets. Because, in truth, attention is your greatest asset, the medium through which energy transforms into value. Next, consider how you structure your days. Energy mastery thrives on rhythm, predictable cycles of expansion and contraction. You cannot sustain peak performance without deliberate renewal. Build your day around your energy peaks, not arbitrary hours. If you're most creative in the morning, make that your sacred time for deep work: writing, planning, designing, analyzing. Guard those hours with ritualistic devotion. Silence notifications, close doors, and let immersion become meditation. Then, schedule administrative or social tasks during lower energy periods. Aligning tasks with your natural cycles turns productivity from resistance into resonance. When your routine reflects your biology, you stop fighting fatigue and start flowing with it. But environment and routine alone are not enough. True energy mastery also requires internal stillness, the ability to regulate emotional charge regardless of circumstance. The introverted nervous system is like a finely tuned instrument, sensitive, precise, and easily overstimulated. This sensitivity is both your strength and your challenge. It allows you to perceive subtle emotional shifts that others miss, but it also means your mind absorbs tension like a sponge. Over time, unprocessed stress becomes static, cluttering mental clarity and draining vitality. That's why practices like meditation, journaling, or breath work aren't optional. They are essential maintenance for your inner circuitry. Each session clears mental residue, releasing energy trapped in overthinking. Think of meditation not as escape, but as system reboot, a way to empty your cache so focus can run smoothly again. There's a myth that rest is unproductive. In truth, rest is recalibration. Every creative or strategic breakthrough you'll ever experience will emerge from silence, not strain. The brain requires downtime to consolidate information, to connect ideas in the background. This is why your best insights often arrive in the shower, during a walk, or in a moment of stillness. When you rest consciously, you invite intuition to speak. And intuition, that quiet inner knowing, is the introvert's greatest source of leverage. It's the silent compass that points you toward the highest return for your energy. To ignore it is to waste your most advanced navigation system. Energy mastery also extends into relationships, what you allow into your emotional ecosystem. Not every connection deserves access to your energy field. Some people replenish your spirit, others drain it through constant need, drama, or negativity. The introvert's empathy can make them vulnerable to emotional vampires, individuals who unconsciously feed on attention and compassion. To protect your energy, you must learn the art of compassionate detachment. You can care deeply without carrying the weight. You can listen without absorbing. You can love without losing yourself. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you wise. When your empathy is balanced by boundaries, your presence becomes healing rather than depleting. Notice, too, how certain social patterns create invisible energy contracts. Every time you overcommit, overexplain, or overplease, you're signing away portions of your power. Each time you silence your needs to maintain harmony, you withdraw from your energetic savings account. Eventually, the balance runs dry, and burnout becomes inevitable. But when you begin honoring your truth, saying no when needed, and communicating your limits clearly, you reclaim the energy you once spent on maintaining false peace. True peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the presence of authenticity. And authenticity, for an introvert, is oxygen. Let's look at this through a practical lens of energy budgeting, a framework that mirrors financial planning. Just as a successful investor tracks income and expenses, an energy-conscious individual tracks inputs and outputs. Begin by categorizing your activities into 4 quadrants: energy deposits, energy interest, energy withdrawals, and energy debt. Deposits are activities that deeply recharge you: solitude, learning, nature, creative flow. Interest activities are neutral but necessary: basic communication, errands, maintenance. Withdrawals are draining but occasional: networking events, intense meetings, or high-stimulation tasks. Debt activities are those that consistently leave you depleted with little return: toxic conversations, meaningless scrolling, guilt-based obligations. Your goal is not to eliminate all withdrawals or debts overnight, but to rebalance your portfolio, increasing deposits, minimizing debts, and scheduling recovery after withdrawals. This practice alone can revolutionize your clarity and output within weeks. To sustain long-term mastery, integrate micro-recharges throughout your day. 5 minutes of deep breathing before a call, 2 minutes of mindful silence between tasks, or a quiet meal without screens can restore surprising amounts of energy. Small pauses create exponential returns. This isn't indulgence, it's infrastructure. Every pause strengthens your nervous system's resilience to stress. And resilience, not relentless motion, is what builds empires that last. Now, let's connect this to wealth directly. Money and energy are mirrors. Both respond to flow, clarity, and emotion. When your energy is scattered, your finances often reflect it: inconsistent income, impulsive spending, or unclear goals. But when your energy is grounded, money follows order. You make sharper decisions because you're not reacting emotionally. You attract aligned opportunities because your frequency broadcasts stability. You invest more intelligently because you're not seeking validation through consumption. Energy mastery, therefore, becomes the root system of financial mastery. The calmer you are, the wealthier you can become, not because calmness magically prints money, but because calmness optimizes execution. There's a saying among elite athletes: train hard, recover harder. The same applies to wealth builders. Energy recovery is not a break from ambition. It's a strategy for longevity. Burnout is not a badge of honor. It's a warning that you're living out of sync with your wiring. The introverted path to consistent growth is through sustainability. You build wealth like a forest, slowly, silently, and steadily, one layer at a time. Protect your roots, and the canopy will flourish. Ignore them, and the entire structure collapses. To help embody this truth, I often suggest a simple yet profound exercise called the still hour. Once or twice a week, dedicate 1 full hour to absolute silence. No devices, no input, no agenda. Sit with your thoughts. Let your mind wander without judgment. You'll notice at first an avalanche of restlessness, unfinished tasks, random memories, emotional echoes. Don't resist them. Let them pass like weather. Then, beneath the noise, something begins to emerge: insight, clarity, direction. The still hour is where your energy recalibrates to its natural frequency. It's where intuition takes the wheel and the next chapter of your strategy begins to reveal itself. Many great decisions, investments, career pivots, creative breakthroughs have been born in silence, not noise. This is where introverts gain their edge over the world's chaos, in their willingness to listen deeper than others think. Over time, as you build this relationship with your energy, you'll begin to feel it like a sixth sense, a subtle pulse that guides your decisions. You'll know instinctively when to engage and when to retreat, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to expand and when to recharge. You'll stop scheduling by clock time and start living by energy time. And that shift will make you more productive in 4 calm hours than others are in 12 frantic ones. You'll learn that balance isn't a destination. It's a dynamic dance between output and replenishment. You'll no longer fear slowing down because you'll understand that stillness is not stagnation, it's strategic preparation. This, ultimately, is what it means to become an energetic millionaire, not just wealthy in finances, but in vitality, peace, and purpose. You move through life with a full battery, not because you avoid the world, but because you manage your connection to it. You give deeply when it matters and withdraw completely when you need to rebuild. You stop seeing solitude as loneliness and start seeing it as luxury. You begin to treat your inner world like sacred ground, clean, stable. If hard selling is a chase, soft selling is a conversation. It doesn't demand immediate action, it invites reflection. For the introvert, this approach feels like breathing, slow, rhythmic, natural. But to practice it effectively, you must understand the psychology behind it. Every human decision, including a purchase, is emotional first and logical second. The mind uses logic to justify what the heart already feels. That means your real task is not to convince someone to buy. It's to create emotional safety and resonance so that their own logic finds reasons to agree. Soft selling, therefore, begins with presence. Your calm attention is your first product. When you meet a potential client, student, or partner, focus entirely on understanding them. Not just their surface needs, but the emotions beneath them. If they say they want more clients, ask why. Perhaps they want recognition, stability, or relief from fear. When you help someone articulate the feeling they're chasing, you instantly separate yourself from every transactional competitor. You've shifted the conversation from money to meaning, and meaning builds loyalty that lasts. Introverts excel here because they naturally tune into nuance. You don't need to dominate conversation, you just need to direct it gently with curiosity. One of the most powerful methods for soft selling is the bridge framework. Listen, reflect, align, invite. First, you listen deeply, giving full presence without interruption. Then you reflect what you've heard in your own words. It sounds like you're struggling with, or what I'm hearing is, this shows genuine understanding. Next, you align your solution with their emotion. That's exactly why I created this, to help people who feel that same frustration find peace and progress. Finally, you invite, not pressure. Would you like me to show you how it works? This process transforms selling into empathy in motion. The buyer feels seen, not sold. Introverts often underestimate how persuasive their calmness is. In an overstimulated world, calm is a premium. When you maintain grounded energy in a sales interaction, you unconsciously communicate confidence and control. People sense when someone isn't desperate for a yes. That relaxed detachment makes your offer more desirable because it signals abundance. You don't need the sale, you offer it. This energy reversal changes everything. The buyer moves toward you instead of away. Soft power is silent gravity. It pulls rather than pushes. Consider how this works in digital spaces, where most modern sales now occur. The same principles apply: empathy, clarity, and calm authority. Instead of loud calls to action, you use thoughtful language that centers the reader's desire. For instance, instead of saying, "Buy now before it's too late," you might write, "If you're ready to simplify this part of your life, here's the next step." See the difference? One provokes anxiety, the other invites alignment. Introverted creators thrive in written persuasion because writing allows reflection. You can edit tone, refine words, and ensure that every sentence feels authentic. The result is marketing that whispers instead of shouts, yet lands deeper. Another essential tool in soft selling is educational generosity. The more you teach, the more you earn trust. Instead of guarding knowledge, share it freely. Publish insights, create guides, record tutorials, or answer real questions from your audience. Every free lesson becomes a demonstration of competence and compassion. People buy not because they need your help, but because they trust your heart. Paradoxically, the more you give, the more you sell, because giving removes suspicion. When you show up as a helper first, commerce becomes collaboration. The introvert's analytical depth turns teaching into marketing without ever feeling like manipulation. To apply this practically, structure your soft selling ecosystem like this: content, connection, conversion. Content is what attracts attention: your writing, videos, podcasts, or quiet presence online. Connection is where you engage, replying thoughtfully to messages, offering genuine help, starting meaningful conversations. Conversion happens naturally when the right people feel safe enough to take the next step. You don't have to close hundreds of deals to thrive. 10 deep relationships built on trust can outperform 1,000 cold leads. Your power lies not in reach, but in resonance. Another vital truth: selling doesn't end at the transaction, it deepens after it. The quiet seller knows that the post-sale relationship determines lifetime value. Follow up, not with marketing, but with meaning: a handwritten note, a personal message, a check-in email that asks, "How's it working for you?" That single gesture can turn a one-time buyer into a lifelong advocate. Introverts are natural nurturers. Your follow-up is your secret weapon. You don't need volume when you have loyalty. And let's talk about the internal side of selling, the beliefs that either empower or sabotage it. Many introverts associate selling with manipulation because they've only seen it done poorly. To heal that perception, you must remember, if your product, service, or idea genuinely helps people, not offering it is a form of selfishness. Silence, in that case, denies others a chance to improve their lives. Selling, at its purest, is an act of leadership, the courage to say, "I can help." Once you internalize that, your fear dissolves. You no longer sell to make money. You sell to make meaning. The money follows naturally. At its highest level, selling is not a transaction at all. It's a transfer of trust over time. The goal is no longer to persuade a single person once, but to cultivate credibility so consistently that belief accumulates around your name like a magnetic field. Every message you write, every conversation you hold, every promise you keep contributes to that field. This is the long game of influence, not a sprint for conversions, but a quiet compounding of reputation. For the introvert, this is where the real advantage begins. You may not have the loudest voice, but you have the longest memory and the deepest consistency. That is the soil from which lasting trust grows. Trust selling begins with alignment between message and manner. People subconsciously sense incongruence. When words promise calm, but tone carries anxiety. When an offer speaks of confidence, but energy smells of desperation. The introverted seller's natural restraint becomes an asset here. You don't rush promises. You don't inflate outcomes. You speak from grounded truth. And because your communication emerges from authenticity, your audience relaxes. They may not articulate why they feel safer, but they do. That safety is invisible persuasion. It opens doors that charisma alone never could. To amplify this effect, build what I call the trust sequence, a 5-stage process of nurturing silent credibility. Consistency, competence, character, care, calm. 1. Consistency. Show up at predictable intervals. Publish, deliver, or communicate on schedule. Reliability is louder than promotion. 2. Competence. Let your results speak before your voice does. Case studies, testimonials, visible mastery, proof without noise. 3. Character. Make integrity part of your brand. Be honest when you don't know. Deliver slightly more than promised. 4. Care. Demonstrate genuine interest in outcomes, not just transactions. Check in without expectation. 5. Calm. Stay emotionally even, especially under pressure. Nothing reassures a buyer like unshakable composure. When these 5 overlap, persuasion becomes unnecessary. Trust itself converts. You no longer have to sell your value. People simply prefer to work with you. That's the essence of soft power, silent gravity replacing visible effort. Another concept that strengthens introverted selling is asynchronous persuasion, the ability to influence without real-time conversation. Most salespeople rely on instant performance. They need to be on. Introverts, however, excel at asynchronous communication, emails, long-form content, recorded messages, mediums that allow reflection. In these spaces, you can polish thought, shape tone, and express nuance that live conversation might rush past. Well-crafted writing is timeless marketing, a sales message that works while you rest. You create it once, and it persuades indefinitely. Every quiet piece of content becomes an ambassador for your voice. But persuasion without presence only works if your values are woven through every layer of your brand. The way you respond to a refund request, the tone of your contracts, the clarity of your onboarding, all of these communicate your ethics. Most customers won't remember your pitch, but they'll remember how you made them feel after paying. Soft selling turns post-purchase care into marketing. Every satisfied client becomes a silent advertisement. Word of mouth, the oldest form of selling, still outperforms paid campaigns when trust is high. Introverts thrive here because word of mouth is built on intimacy and listening, not visibility. To deepen these relationships, shift your focus from closing to continuing. In every sale, ask, how can this relationship evolve? Maybe a satisfied client becomes a collaborator, a referrer, or a community member. Design your systems to nurture that evolution. For example, create a follow-up sequence that offers education, not just upsells. Solitude is also the birthplace of strategic clarity. When you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to absorb their priorities, their fears, their noise. Alone, you can hear what truly belongs to you. Solitude filters external influence, so you can design from authenticity. The best entrepreneurs often describe a pattern: periods of intense social energy, followed by deliberate withdrawal. They understand that great decisions require incubation. It's in the quiet hours, reviewing your goals, sketching ideas, re-examining your direction, that the fog clears. Each moment of solitude becomes a mirror, reflecting whether your current path aligns with your deeper purpose. To systematize this clarity, create what I call solitude sessions. These are scheduled blocks of time, weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, dedicated solely to thinking, reflecting, and envisioning. No devices, no multitasking, just you and your mind. Start each session with a single question, such as, what feels aligned right now? What's draining my energy that I can release? What opportunity am I resisting because of fear? If I acted purely from peace, what would I do next? Write freely. Don't edit. Let your mind unravel. The answers that surface in solitude often carry more truth than weeks of advice from others. You're not seeking external permission, you're decoding internal direction. Over time, these sessions form a dialogue with your higher self, a steady voice of wisdom that cuts through confusion. Solitude is also medicine for emotional regulation. Life's pace, especially for sensitive, ambitious people, can fragment your inner equilibrium. Alone time acts as emotional recalibration, a quiet reset for the nervous system. When you slow down, breathe, and reflect, your stress hormones lower, your creativity reactivates, and your awareness expands. You begin to notice what your emotions are trying to tell you instead of running from them. Anger reveals misaligned boundaries. Anxiety signals unprocessed uncertainty. Sadness indicates the need for renewal. Solitude gives these feelings space to speak and space to heal. You don't suppress emotion, you translate it. That emotional literacy becomes one of the introvert's most powerful tools for leadership and wealth. Calm minds make clear decisions. Yet solitude isn't meant to last forever. It's cyclical. You retreat to refine, then return to contribute. The purpose of being alone is not to stay isolated, but to return more intentional. The world needs your clarity. The people around you need your calm. Every retreat into solitude is a gathering of light you'll later bring back into the world. That's why true solitude never leads to loneliness, because it always prepares you for deeper connection. You're not disconnecting from people, you're reconnecting with purpose. In time, solitude becomes something even more profound, a spiritual state. You start to see that quiet isn't empty, it's full of awareness. You stop fearing silence because you realize it's the language of wisdom itself. You begin to notice subtleties, the intuition that nudges, the calm certainty that guides. Solitude trains you to trust that subtle guidance more than the world's chaos. And when you do, your actions become aligned, your relationships more harmonious, and your path more peaceful. When solitude matures into mastery, it becomes indistinguishable from leadership. The most influential people in history, the philosophers, the inventors, the reformers, the investors, the thinkers, were not loud personalities commanding attention in crowded rooms. They were individuals who could be alone with their vision long enough for it to take form. Leadership begins in solitude because conviction is born in silence. You cannot guide others until you've first guided yourself. You cannot create calm for others until you've built peace within. Solitude is where that inner authority is forged, in the hours when no one is watching, in the moments when your only audience is truth. Introverted leaders possess a unique edge here. While the world equates leadership with presence, charisma, and visibility, real influence flows from energetic stability. People trust those who are unshaken. And the only way to become unshaken is to spend enough time alone to know what cannot be taken from you. In solitude, you discover the difference between confidence and clarity. Confidence says, I can do this. Clarity says, this must be done. The former can falter, the latter cannot. The quiet leader doesn't need to raise their voice because their certainty speaks louder than words. In solitude, your energy consolidates. You stop leaking power through over-explanation, over-commitment, and overexposure. You gather yourself inward, and from that centeredness, your influence radiates outward. This is what makes solitude magnetic. People can feel when someone is grounded. It's not about detachment, it's about depth. You walk into a room and bring calm with you. You speak few words, yet every one of them carries weight. That's the paradox of the introvert's power. The less you demand attention, the more attention you command. Solitude also amplifies creative mastery. Every great artist, writer, or builder knows that the work which moves the world is born in isolation. Solitude gives you the courage to explore original thought, to deviate from imitation and dare to build from vision. In crowds, ideas get diluted by consensus. Alone, ideas crystallize. You begin to see patterns invisible to others. You sense the essence of what the world needs before it can articulate it. This is why solitude and innovation are inseparable. The creative genius is simply someone who can tolerate the silence between inspiration and recognition, who can wait quietly while the world catches up. There is a story about Michelangelo staring at a block of marble for days before touching it. When asked what he was doing, he said, "I saw the angel in the marble and carved until I set him free." That is solitude in action, the ability to see what others can't because you've looked long enough. Every quiet thinker has this same potential. The ideas you carry are marble. Solitude is your chisel. In silence, you remove the noise until truth appears. That's how art, business, and impact are born, not in chaos, but in concentration. Solitude also refines your energetic signature. When you spend time alone, free from influence, you start to notice what feels authentic and what feels forced. You recognize what environments nourish you and which deplete you. You learn to design a life that amplifies your natural strengths, a lifestyle, workflow, and wealth strategy that fits your rhythm rather than fighting it. That's not selfish, it's self-aligned. The introvert's power is not in adaptation, but in authenticity. The more you honor your true pace, the more the world adjusts to it. And here lies the most profound gift of solitude: magnetism. When your energy becomes clear, not scattered, not reactive, just grounded, you begin to attract people, opportunities, and resources that resonate with that calm. It's not magic, it's resonance. You've stopped chasing, so alignment can find you. You've stopped performing, so authenticity can recognize you. In solitude, your frequency stabilizes, and stability is magnetic in a world addicted to chaos. Wealth, love, opportunity, all flow naturally to those who radiate inner peace. But solitude must be balanced with contribution. If you retreat too far inward, your light becomes invisible. The purpose of solitude is not to escape the world, but to illuminate it. Each time you emerge from your quiet sanctuary, bring something back: an idea, a solution, a perspective, a presence. That's how solitude transforms from self-focus to service. You don't withdraw forever, you return wiser. You lead, create, and teach from a place of integration rather than exhaustion. You become proof that stillness is strength and silence is power. In the end, solitude teaches you that the greatest relationship you'll ever have is with your own consciousness. Once that relationship is harmonious, everything else falls into rhythm. You don't seek validation, you express truth. You don't chase opportunity, you attract alignment. You don't fear being unseen, because your work, your peace, and your presence speak even in your absence. Solitude makes you unstoppable, not because it isolates you, but because it integrates you. You become whole, and wholeness is the ultimate form of wealth. Chapter 12. Living Rich Without Noise. There comes a moment in the pursuit of wealth when you realize the pursuit itself must end. Not because you've stopped growing, but because you've finally grown into peace. You look around and recognize that abundance is no longer something to chase. It's something to curate. You've learned that wealth without alignment feels hollow, that noise without purpose feels like chaos, and that success without peace feels like loss disguised as victory. The world taught you that richness meant more activity, more possessions, more attention. But the silent millionaire discovers a subtler truth. Richness is less, but better. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that nothing external can enhance what's already whole within. Living rich without noise begins with redefining success itself. For the introvert, wealth isn't a stage, it's a sanctuary.